The title says it all, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are building a sexy gaming PC to game over 100 FPS in 1080p. This PC is specifically for people with higher refresh rate monitors to take advantage of these super high frames in 1080p. It's going to cost you around $720 without the optional parts and a little under $900 with everything included. Let's begin. Join the custom cooling revolution with the Corsair Hydro X series, featuring every part you'll need to make your PC stand out with a gorgeous custom cooling system. Experience powerful cooling with minimal noise, easy setup, and automated control for efficient fan and pump speeds. Choose from a range of water blocks for the latest graphics cards, including the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2080 and 2080 Ti. For more info, click the link below. So I wanted to do something a little different. Instead of building a budget gaming PC, I want to make it look sexy. After all, that is one of my specialties here on YouTube, PC porn. Now with that said, I wanted to build something that performs in the high 100 FPS average in 1080p while also looking gorgeous in your setup. The theme of the build is all white, in case you guys haven't noticed, and I feel like white really blends in well with most setups out there. Before we jump into the gaming benchmarks, let's go over the parts real quick. Starting with the CPU, I went with the i5 9400F, which a lot of people don't know about. It's a locked 6-core processor with no hyperthreading and a boost clock of 4.1 GHz. This processor goes for only $150 and it competes against the Ryzen 5 2600X, which is now going for the same price. Since AMD launched their new 3rd generation Ryzen chips, the 2nd generation chips have dropped in price significantly. If you look at the gaming benchmarks on the 9400F compared to the 2600X, you can see that it outperforms the 2600X in almost every title on stock frequencies. However, the 2600X did do slightly better once overclocked to 4.2 GHz. On stock, the 9400F is about 3% faster than the 2600X. One of the advantages that the 2600X has over the 9400F is hyperthreading, and because of that, it's going to perform way better in heavy application workloads, whether it's streaming or editing, and for that reason alone, I do recommend going the AMD route. I want to make it very clear for you guys, okay? If you want to build a gaming PC for more than just gaming, so whether it's editing or streaming, and you want a PC that has a better upgrade path, this PC is not for you. I'll drop a link below to an AMD parts list that has a much better upgrade path that costs about the same. So check that out instead. The build I'm doing in this video is strictly for gaming right now and also aesthetics. I would say it's like 50-50. So if you guys don't plan on upgrading any parts in the next 2 or 3 years and you love the color white, then this PC might interest you. So the motherboard I picked up is the B360 Gaming Arctic simply because it's the only motherboard with an all-white PCB that's going to fit perfectly in this build. It also supports 9th gen processors, so I don't need to flash the BIOS, and it has 4 DIMM slots, allowing you to add 2 more RAM sticks later if needed. The only downside to that motherboard is it doesn't support fast RAM, only up to 2666 MHz. Speaking of RAM, I went with 2 4GB sticks of the T-Force Delta RGB RAM. For some reason, the 3000 MHz speed was the same price as the 2666 MHz, so obviously I picked up the faster ones instead for $46. The GPU we're going with is the Zotac GTX 1660 Ti, which offers exceptional 1080p performance, which you will get to see at the end of this video. The NZXT H500 is actually perfect for this build because I like the compact size of it while supporting full-size ATX motherboards, and the tempered glass panel with awesome cable management support is a nice plus. Powering everything is a 600-watt bronze certified power supply from Cougar, which has an awesome price, only $45 for a 600-watt power supply. I couldn't pass that up. For storage, we are sticking with a single 512GB SSD from Team that offers pretty good read and write speeds. And finally, the rest of the stuff is optional, but without them, I feel like the build wouldn't be complete. You know, I was going for an all-white build, so if I didn't pick up white cable extensions or even a white cooler, then it just wouldn't look as good. The GAMX cooler is much quieter than the stock heatsink from the CPU, and it offers better cooling while sticking with the color scheme. I also picked up a sheet of white skins to cover up the SSD, and then I realized you can mount this on the back of the case. So technically this is not even needed, and we can cross $10 off the total. I also picked up 2 white LED strips, which are powered by Molex. So all you have to do is plug it in your PSU and you're good to go. And finally, picked up some white LED fans from Ago. A set of 3 white LED fans, which are also Molex powered, and these will replace the stock fans in the case. And that's pretty much everything. So let's put it together and see what it can do. So the final thoughts on the PC, it was built to do exactly what it was made for. 1080p gaming over 100 FPS. I mean, you can even run some games in 1440p and still get over 100 FPS, like CSGO, Overwatch, and even Siege, because it doesn't take much to run those games in a higher resolution. I did overclock the GPU as well, and I was actually very impressed with the numbers. Never have I ever seen a GPU overclock this smoothly like the Zotac GTX 1660 Ti. I was able to add an extra 130 MHz offset to the core clock and 1450 MHz offset on the memory. This gave me 17 more FPS on the Heaven benchmark and 23 FPS on Rainbow Siege. That's 23 more frames just by overclocking the GPU, which is really easy to do. I mean, that is extra performance for free, basically. Now, with that said, there is one thing that I didn't like about this build, and that is the fans. It looks very dim compared to the other white LED fan, but the thing that bothered me the most was the connection. So you have two ways to connect this, either Molex or 3-pin fan header, but look at the spacing between the two of them. I wanted to hook up all 3 fans to the fan headers on the motherboard so that I can control the speed, but the spacing is so terrible, you end up having this nasty Molex connector hanging from the cable. I have no idea why they designed their fans like that. It's a pretty bad design choice. If they gave me at least, I don't know, 3 inches of space to work with, then that would have solved my issue, and I'd be able to connect the fans using the fan header on the motherboard. But unfortunately, I had to use the Molex connector instead, which means that I have no control over the speed of the fans. But it's whatever. I mean, the case has plenty of airflow, and the 3 fans do a good job on keeping the components nice and cool while keeping the system very silent. This is how quiet it is on full load. I'm actually running Heaven benchmark right now. Let me show you guys actually. This monitor is huge. So yeah, it's running Heaven benchmark. It's on a loop right now. And this is how quiet the system is. So to wrap up this video, for this price point, which is a little over $800, you can obviously build a better PC. I do recommend going with the AMD route, like I mentioned earlier, if you guys want a better upgrade path, as well as more bang for your buck. This is not a value PC by any means, you guys. This is a combination of aesthetics and performance, with emphasis more on aesthetics, of course, and also for someone who prefers Intel parts over AMD. Speaking of value, can I just rant a little bit about the backplate from B1 Tech? This thing costs $40, which is pretty expensive for a piece of acrylic. I was debating on not putting something like this in the build, but I couldn't leave the top of the GPU, blank, and I had to put something on there. So 40 bucks is pretty steep for something like this. I mean, don't get me wrong, V1 Tech, I love you guys. I use a lot of your stuff in most of my builds. But can you give us a break here? I mean, I feel like you can buy something like this online for like 10 bucks and then cut it to any shape you want. I feel like with that extra $40, you can put that towards a better GPU or really upgrade any component inside your system instead of spending it on a piece of acrylic board. But anyways, I'm done rambling. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll drop a link to all the parts used in this system, as well as the AMD parts, which I talked about earlier. Consider subscribing because I have an AMD budget build coming up with a build guide, which is everyone's favorite. It's coming up very soon. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, I love your faces, and I will see you guys in the next video.